Today we are going to discuss the poem Birches by Robert Frost. So let's get into the discussion of the poem. First I will read the lines, then discuss on them. So when I see watches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. So the poet is saying that when he sees the birch trees bent, he thinks that some boy has been swinging them, like he's hanging by those birches and bending them. Then he says, but swinging doesn't bend them down to stay as storms do. Then he's saying, okay, but swinging does not bend the trees like ice storms do, because ice sticks to the branches of the trees and then bend them permanently. Often you must have seen them loaded with ice a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many colored as the steel cracks and crages their enamel. So he's saying that okay, many times in the morning when it's sunny, you must have seen the trees loaded with the ice, white ice. Then he's saying they click upon themselves as the breeze rises. So when the sun heats up the ice on the tree birches branches, he says that the ice starts to melt and they start clicking and cracking. And when the ice melts, it also cracks the outer skin of the trees. So that's why he is using the line as the stir cracks and crages their enamel. So he says that soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you would think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. So then, as I mentioned, he says that warmth of sun makes the tree branches shed crystal shells. These crystal shells are ice pieces that have fallen off from the branches, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. He's saying that there is so much ice falling from the trees. You would think that the roof of the sky has fallen. The sky, even the heaven has fallen down. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the road, and they seem not to break. Though once they are bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. So bracken is the fern. It's another name for fern. So he's saying that they are so bent with the weight of the ice that they start touching the withered fern leaves, and they seem not to break. Even though they are so bent, they don't seem to break. See, he has used the word seem, so we will get to know what happens next. You may see their trunks arcing in the woods years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground, like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. So you see that even though we seem to have this idea that okay, once the ice would be lifted off their branches, these trees would straighten up again, but that doesn't happen. Once they had been went throughout the winter, they would not correct themselves and be straight again. So the expression that and they seem not to break shows, I mean, we get to the reality that now they have been broken, in the sense that they can't be straight again like they used to be. Then he's also comparing the image of the bent trees with the girls drying their hair. The poet is also comparing the trees in the bent position like girls when they are drying their wet hair. They place their hands on the knees and then they throw their hair like the branches of trees. So he's comparing trees with girls' hair lines. But I was going to say that when truth broke in with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out in to fetch the cows. He says that okay, when the reality came in that these trees are not bent by a boy but by ice storm, and they are permanently bent, they can never correct themselves. So then he's saying that he would rather prefer that some boy is doing that instead of ice storm. And this boy is going with the cows, and he's also learning the baseball. Then he is saying that it could either be the boy who is going to graze the cows, or maybe the guy who's going to learn baseball in some other town, and whose only way of entertaining himself is vending trees, and he can vend trees in summers or winters, because that's the only way he can entertain himself. So next, okay, one by one he subdued his father's trees by writing them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them. Then he's again continuing with that image that some boy is doing that, some boy is bending the trees. Then he's saying that boy, he bent all the trees in his father's property by slowly riding them and over again until he took away the stiffness out of them. Now they are not stiff, they are bent and they are flexible. And not one but hung limp, not one was left for him to conquer. Like I said, like he has bent all the trees on his father's property. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon, and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He says that he has learned the trait of bending trees. He knows when to hang from the branches and not to jump too quickly from the branches and not to release them too soon. He knows how to bend the trees, and he has learned this art of bending trees, and he is a master now. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains used to fill a cup up to the brim and even above the brim. He's saying that he is so patient, so caring when it comes to bending the trees. He knows when to move and when to be quiet on the branch. It's like as if you are filling the cup to the brim. You have to be careful that you don't spill the liquid you are using to fill the cup. It's as if it's even more patient than filling the cup to the brim. Then he flung outward, feet first, with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. Then he's saying that he flung out, holding the branch, using it like a bungee jump. First, he drops the feet with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. He's very careful when to hang on to the branch and land on the ground. He comes to himself. So was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. He's saying I was also a swinger of birches. I also used to bend the birches, and now I want to be that boy again who used to swing the birches. It's when I am weary of considerations, and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twigs having lashed across it open. So then he's using very uh, painful details and painful detail of life. He's saying that I am also sometimes weary of consideration, that life is like a deep jungle where there is no way out, and it's like you are walking in the jungle. The cobwebs are sticking to your face, and your face feels like it is burning. And he's saying that some branch of the tree broken just punches you on the eye, and as if the twig has stuck your open eye. It's like using painful details to show that now his youth is full of so many considerations, so many things to care about. He wants to be that guy who is very careless, carefree. He wants to be that swinger of birches. I would like to get away from earth a while and then come back to it and begin over. And he's using the metaphor of flinging out of the tree and then landing on the ground. He is saying, using that as a metaphor. He's saying that he would also want to be away from earth for a while and then come back to it. He's just looking for escapes, be it through swinging the birches or be it through a metaphorical journey across the earth and away from the earth. Then he says, may no fate willfully misunderstand me and half grant what I wish and snatch me away not to return. He is now praying to the higher power, maybe to the God, that okay, I want. He's saying to the God, I want to be clear what you give me in my wishes. I don't want you to grant me the half wish, that okay, you take me away from the earth but then you don't bring me back to the earth. I want you to fulfill my whole promise. First you take me away from the earth and then bring me back to earth, because he says earth is the right place for love. I do not know where it's likely to go better. And he emphasizing, though he wants an escape from worldly duties, worldly problems, but then he says that it is the right place, because earth is the only planet where there are so many opportunities, there are so many possibilities. It's like a stage for him. The earth is like a stage for him. I would like to go by climbing a birch tree and climb black branches up a snow white trunk toward heaven till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. And he is again going back to the climbing, birch climbing metaphor. He's saying that I would want to climb so high from the snow white trunk, like I am going towards the heaven, till the tree could bear no more. Like when he has bent the tree to the fullest, and the tree drops him on the earth again. It's like the top of the branch is tipping towards the earth. He wants that kind of experience in life. That would be good, both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches. Then he's saying that okay, it's like coming. He wants to come back to the earth by swinging the birches. He wants to enjoy the ride of swinging the birches. He's saying what could be worse than being a swinger of birches. So then he's by using what could be worse than a swinger of birches, he's emphasizing that after all, being a swinger of birches is not a bad idea for him. Now let's discuss the themes of the poem. First, now you would have clear idea what the poem is all about, and I would still highlight those themes in the poem. First, there is clearly the nostalgia of our childhood, the way the poet imagines himself to be the swinger of birches again. And there is clear imagery that highlights how much he is in love with the idea of being a swinger of birches. Then later in the poem, we also get to know that adult life is very boring. It's filled with so many responsibilities, so many considerations, so many life choices. So it's also very clear from that. Then we also get to know the theme is there of imagination and childhood. Childhood is a very imaginative place, very where imagination is very powerful. You can imagine anything and you can be anything. That idea is also explored in the poem, where he says that the boy bends all the trees in his father's property. That could not be practically true. It's just an idea, it's just a thought. Then also we know that how major a role nature plays in the emotional well-being of a person. uh, we whenever we get frustrated with life, we want an escape to the nature, be it an escape to a sea beach, be it an escape to mountains. We always look for nature retreats, nature we always want nature to be with us. Now let's focus on the language aspect of the poem. You must have also noticed some things, some certain ideas in the poem that convey the use of language. First, the poem is in blank verse, which means it's using iambic pentameter. Uh, Usually, iambic pentameter is used for writing blank verse. And again, language is very easy to understand. I think there were hardly a few words that were difficult to understand, but I have attached the images of those words so that's easy for you to understand. And also the poet is using sensory imagery. By sensory imagery I means the images that highlight, that tries the images that try to uh, gain our attention either through sound words, either through images that have some perception related to them. For example, swishing, for example, breaking of the branches. These are the sound words. Again, there are so many sensory images, like you must have remembered from this reading that a branch hitting the open eye, that's also very painful and painful imagery. Also, he is evoking the senses, which is very clear. Now let's just conclude the discussion we had. So first, the poetic persona. We use poetic persona when we are talking about the narrator in a poem, because it's not the poet who is in that poem. It's not the poet as a person who is imagining all these things. It's just a poetic persona used by the poet that is imagining all these things. He wants to move away from the hard realities of life. That is also clear. How he wants to escape from responsibilities and be the swinger of birches again. At the same time, he is not able to ignore the worldly duties. By the way, he's saying that he again wants to come back to the earth. Now, also, it is clear from his desire to escape the earth and come back to it, like I mentioned. And lastly, he also wants to maintain the balance in spiritual and material world, be it him leaving the earth and coming back to it. Maybe it's the idea of heaven that is discussed in the poem. And I think that's all. If you have any ideas, any questions, you can comment in the video. Thank you.